Hello, hello, hello. We're back for a yap. It's been a while because it's been a pretty slow few weeks. It's weird. I think the last video I made on here, I was talking about how I felt like the UFC was starting to get somewhere in terms of the excitement and hype. And then there was like 2 weeks where I was just like, I'm bored. But last night got me excited again. And then the next 3 weeks look really fun because we've got Usman Buckley this weekend, we've got Khalil Hill the weekend after, and then I'm going to Vegas. So it's all very exciting. Starting to feel that initial, hype that I had of when things are good in the UFC, It was quite rough. And that's not to say, I always know of the quiet period during, Christmas and New Year's. We're used to that. We expect that. But week after week, when it's especially being an MMA content creator, I'm supposed to, it's my job. It's not like I am a fan, but I actually have to talk and create content about what's going on. And that whole Blanchfield Barber situation, that's difficult to try and hype up. And then it didn't even end up happening. It's difficult. But we're here now. We had a great weekend of fights, or night of fights over the weekend. And yeah, things are starting to feel like they're kind of up and running again, which is really cool. So we'll talk about the fights and then kind of what that means for the future of certain divisions and, the promotion itself. So yeah, overall, I think it was a great night of fights. I think on paper, it definitely wasn't a fight that I was most excited for. I was actually planning on going to the pub to watch this one. Usually if I'm not overly excited for a fight night, I will go to a pub and watch it and get some food, which I was actually thinking of in the future. If I do end up going to a pub, I can kind of do a vlog and do a review of how this pub gives a fan a UFC experience kind of thing. But I ended up watching it at home and they were good. I think, yeah, on paper, wasn't too hyped, but I think watching them, it was pretty enjoyable. We'll start off with Luque and Holland. Now, in my social bet video, I bet on Luque. Now, in hindsight, I did say in that video, I'm going to put a clip here. Going off with Vicente Luque going up against Kevin Holland. This one is actually the one that I am most stuck and nervous about, but I am going to go with Luque there. Things to look out for being that I do know that Kevin Holland does actually look really good in this weight class and has the power to get a knockout or sub. If I were to go any other direction, I'd probably lean towards Kevin Holland with a knockout finish, but I'm putting my money on Luque. So I knew that Kevin would be very good in this division, okay? And I think this fight, if anything, proves that it takes a bigger guy to be able to get him down where he's not as dominant. But when he moves down and he's the bigger guy, he looks really good. I think he's shown that now time and time again. And I think he has said himself too that he feels good and is happy to stay there. So Kevin Holland, he's working his way up. It's always very fun and entertaining. Whether or not you agree with the things that he says, he's a very loud guy who likes to voice his thoughts. It's entertaining, right? Luque, unfortunately, got subbed. My brain leading up to this did go to I believe it was the Oleg Jacek fight, where he did the arm bar, I think. So I knew he had that in him. I was leaning towards a knockout if Kevin were to win, but good stuff. Called out Colby Covington, I think it was in the media press conference afterwards, which I like, or maybe it was in the cage, but either way, I do like that matchup. Colby needs a win and the two are gonna talk a lot. It's either gonna be very funny or very insufferable. Either way, like I said, it's entertainment, so I think fans will love that one, and it'll be interesting to see Holland go up against someone like Covington, because though he hasn't had the best track record recently, Covington, used to be a contender and was one of those top guys for a really long time. So it will be very interesting to see Kevin Holland go up against someone much higher in that lower weight class, because we know he's quite good there. So I'm interested in that. And then, my lord, we had Patchy Mix and Mario Bautista. I hate that I fell into this newcomer hype, because I have said time and time again that the UFC is levels above every other promotion. Okay? And that's not to say that there have been guys that have come in and done really well. You know, Yuri from Ryzen. Now look at RDR's doing very well coming from one. But Bellator, poor thing. You guys are not giving yourselves the best track record here, because Patchy was just not there. I saw a meme, if I can find it, I'll put it in, that was like, this is how Patchy showed up. It was like, And that's if he extended his arm. It was rough to watch. I don't know if it was, you know, the bright UFC lights, you know, those fresh cage nerves, but I think people would have given him a lot more flack if he hadn't spoken so much in the lead up to this. He was speaking so strong, and it helped him, you know, it helped him on his side that Bautista's not the most liked guy in the UFC, and fans were hoping to see Bautista get finished. That definitely didn't happen. And again, in my lead up video, I'll put it here. That's not to underestimate Bautista though. I think Bautista gets more hate than he deserves, but he's a good fighter, and I think if Bautista gets it, that'll be a decision. Unfortunate for Mix to show up in the way that he did. I'm not sure where, like, it was a last minute thing. So I don't know how much that'll play into it. But again, he just spoke so much leading up to it. And now, at the time, we all loved it. But now, looking at the way that he showed up, I don't know if anyone's going to want to see him fight again. So I'm not sure what his contract deal was when it comes to, you know, did he have a certain number of fights that he was pre-signed to? Was it depending on this outcome? We'll have to wait and see. But that was probably one of the less memorable and, dare I say, bad debuts in the UFC. Ugh. When you look at previous Bellator guys, like, that reminded me clear as day, like the Pitbull fight, Patricio Pitbull. They just didn't show up. There was no urgency. It's like, dude, you're in the UFC for the first time. Trying to make a name for yourself, trying to get these people to remember you. They are learning who you are for the first time right now. And you just stood there, stiff as a board. This is his stance. This is not his stance. Yeah. I don't know what was going on through his mind. But yeah, so him, Patricio, we've got Pico coming up. Chandler has, like, had his 2 good fights and then has kind of fallen off. MVP is doing a lot better now. Bellator's an interesting one, looking at guys that come from there. It is just really crazy to think about how much chatter and talk there is around these guys, because you just genuinely hear people talk like, this guy's got really good this, he's the next this. And then time and time again, we've been disappointed. So I think it's just, can we just treat them like newcomers? Like, majority of people that come into the UFC, be that, like, you know, contender series people, road to UFC people, they're also former champions in their regional fights. And I know that Bellator is another international thing, but it's like, it hasn't worked, and it's proven now that it hasn't worked in the past when we overhype them. So let's just, like, chill out, say what their accomplishments are. Like, yes, they're a former this and this champ, but let's not make it this entire personality of, like, he's going to do this. Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? The difference between acknowledging someone's accomplishments and, like, the overhype that some of these other guys are getting, being the Pitbulls and Patchies. I understand trying to sell them, but there is a level of, like, let's just in case try not to embarrass ourselves here, right? Anyway, Bautista looked really good, so good on him. I'm actually glad that he was able to get a win in the way that he did. We'll be very curious to see how fans, take him on now that Patchy did so bad. Yeah, if fans will give him any more props, because I think he deserves them. Sometimes you have off days, being the Aldo fight, where he still won, but he just got so much hate and that's dragged on. But I think you really do need to give him credit for this fight. So we'll see how the fans go. And then we have Joe Pyfer going up against Kelvin Gastelum. I originally had Pyfer with a finish, which I think most people on paper see Pyfer as this, he's got that one punch knockout power. But I think I forgot about how good Kelvin's chin is. I thought that Pyfer's knockout power would be stronger than Kelvin's chin. Both very good, but Pyfer fell short there. He did get his hand raised, but didn't get the finish. Kelvin's chin is one that we know seems to be indestructible. He's gone to a decision now in his last 7 fights, I believe, and isn't afraid to go in and get hit. That's the difference when you look at decision losses over guys like Patchy. Like, Patchy didn't want to go into that danger. Like, Patchy looked like he was going to cry half the time. Kelvin wasn't afraid to go into it, and I think that's what fans like to see. Look at Khalil Roundtree, right? It's not necessarily about getting your hand raised and winning. It's, do you show up? And I think Gastelum, when he makes weight, he's in a really good position to put on a great show and show up, which I think that he did. But Pyfer was the stronger man, I guess, on the night and ended up getting his hand raised. So yeah, that was a fun one to watch, especially after the Patchy mix fight. And then we get to the co-main event, which was the event that I was looking forward to most. I have done my little social breakdown videos on the co-main and main event. So if you've watched those, I might be repeating myself a little bit here, but I loved watching these girls fight. I loved this story for Kayla. I'm so, so happy for her. I was really nervous for her leading up to this just because the weight cut was something that a lot of people had been speaking about and just worried about her health-wise. Like, it cannot be healthy how much she cuts to how quickly she rehydrates. It's scary. And so I was worried about that, and people were saying she's not going to be able to go the 5 rounds. She didn't need to go the 5 rounds, okay? That's how good it was. She did a great job. A bit scary again. Juliana was super reactive and did some illegal up kick thingies when Kayla was technically down, so got a point taken there. That luckily didn't have to play a factor into the result of the fight, which would have been a shame, because Kayla was able to get her submission win and be the new champion. The girls had a really nice embrace afterwards and said a prayer, which was really beautiful to see. It's nice to know that there wasn't actually any truly bad animosity. I think they're both very loud, confident women. And when you have them competing against each other, it's going to be very loud and rowdy, which I love. I can see that. And to know that there wasn't actually any bad blood is a really nice thing. So it was nice that they showed respect at the end. And then, of course, we had Amanda Nunes show up and come into the octagon, which again, there was love and respect there, which I love to see. I think these women, they are beasts and, can do what I want to say majority of women cannot. I admire them so much. And so the fact that they are able to go face to face against each other and be like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, but still show respect is a really, really cool thing. Amanda being one that many people consider the women's GOAT, current champ Kayla Harrison, who has the incredible resume that she does, her judo resume, her Olympic resume, and now her MMA resume is so, so admirable to see. So those two going up against each other is very, very exciting stuff. It's making women's MMA exciting as a whole because we've also got chatter of Whaley and Valentina, And I don't know if it's because there's just been so much kind of heavyweight John Jones chatter right now, but it did make me think in a similar way of it's this super fight. We want this to happen. they've like faced off and agreed to it. Like, I really hope that it does happen. Not like this other super fight that we have in mind that doesn't ever happen. Do you know what I'm trying to say? But I don't think, like, these girls, you know, they faced off, they agreed to it. It seems like they're both keen. So hopefully, I don't know, end of the year or start early 2026 will be very, very, very exciting. But I don't know what that means in terms of weight classes, because Kayla, like I said, nearly died to make this 135. And she said that she had moments where she wanted to give up, which is fair enough. You're literally killing yourself. But she got it done, and then she got the win, and she was like, I don't know how many more times I'll be able to do it. I personally think that if Kayla can acknowledge that she's not sure if she can make the 135 anymore, then let's do this one-off super fight at 145. You know, Nunes was the 145 champ. She never they never formally like got rid of it. I think Dana just said it in a post-fight press conference once. And just have it off as like this one-off thing. I feel like Kayla, there was at the time, no 145 division for Kayla to fight in. So that wasn't an option for her. So she came in and did her thing at the highest division that there was. But now if Amanda wants to come back, don't know how long Amanda wants to stick around if she does come back. But I guess that really depends on, you know, what Amanda's return looks like. But at the top of my head, I just have this one-off super fight at 145. But then, of course, that leaves this current 135 division to be a bit confusing, because Kayla would have just won and then she moves up and then doesn't want to do the 135 again. Then you have Juliana Pena, who just lost. You've got Raquel Pennington that just lost. And then before that was Amanda Nunes. So there's not really any like real title contenders at 135 if the girls choose to not do it at 135. Does that make sense? So that's where I'm at. If they do fight, it'll be interesting to see what weight class it is, and then depending on that, the rest of the division will be in a very interesting spot as well. So let me know what you guys think of that. And then we have the main event. Oh my God, Merab. You continue to make us smile and surprise us every time. I said in my social breakdown of this that I think majority of the fan base had Merab decision or Sean TKO KO. None of those happened because Merab got a third round submission. Both guys looked really good. When you compare this to the Sphere fight, which I notoriously was not a big fan of at all, they both looked really, really good. Sean looked like he had been training, and I think when you look at the stats comparing to the first fight, you can see the improvements that Sean had made, but the improvements that Merab had made were just better. And you could kind of tell as well that there was almost this switch in Merab that you saw that, he's looking for a finish. And that's not something that we see in Merab. I believe this was his first submission in his UFC career. So it was so unexpected. So unexpected. Like, more than Merab submitting someone, I just don't think you expected Sugar to get submitted. So it was like both things that you just didn't have in your head come to life. Like, I was so shocked. But again, we know how much Sugar was locked in for this camp. And he did look good, but Merab is just, I genuinely don't know who the guy is going to be to stop Merab in his tracks, because it seems like he's only getting better and better. Not only in fights themselves, it seems like he thrives as the rounds go on. We know that he's a cardio machine, but the machine has gotten an upgrade because now he gets finishes. I'm thinking in my head, what if we are only just getting into prime Merab now? Right? You look at the resume that he's got already is ridiculous. The Aldos, the Cejudos, Sugar Sean twice, Umar. And he's only, I think now, if he's thinking he's got in his head, oh shit, I can finish people. That was fun. And you can see on his face, he's having the time of his life when he's in the cage. I just feel like there is a potential here that we're only just starting to see the start of how good Merab is. now that he's gotten a feel of it, a taste of being able to do that to someone like Sugar Sean, it's very exciting stuff. So when you think of the next contenders for him, straight away, even Merab was saying, I don't normally call people out, but Corey has been really fun. Corey's been a lot more active on socials as well with his skits, which Merab is very well known for. So those two, if it does happen, the lead up to that will be hilarious. You'll either love it or hate it. Kind of like Holland and Covington, I guess. It's going to be a lot of back and forth yap, which I like. So Corey is the one that most people think about. And then you've also got Petr Yan, who is going up against Marcus McGee, who, if Marcus McGee is able to do it, that'll be very, very lucky for him. But at least it's a fresh matchup like Corey would be. So I think that'll be fun. But a lot of people think that Petr Yan should have been the next guy in line, except he ended up getting a really random matchup after the Figgy win. But maybe it's like, he's fought Merab before. Let's give him someone new in Corey. So you've got McGee, Yan, Corey, and then maybe an Umar rematch. I personally think while Umar did a really good job, especially when he was injured, I do think that he should have 1 or 2 fights before he gets back up into that title spot, just because the first time that he fought Merab was a very big step up. And the fact that he was able to get so close was incredible when he was injured. But, there are other guys ahead of him, I think. But if they did that, again, I've said it before that rankings aren't really a thing because the UFC will just match up whoever they want. So, if they want to give Umar a rematch, then I wouldn't be surprised either because they have a lot of respect for that kind of Nurmagomedov family and they know that they'll be able to sell tickets there. And if Umar is able to get a win and that's enough to get him back into a title conversation, then I think fans would like to see it. Similar to Sean in a way, like he's only going to have learnt from the first fight, not be injured. So we'll be very curious to see how he would return. Yeah, so Umar, Corey, McGee, Yan, next contenders for Merab. But if you're asking me right now, I think Merab's on a tear. I genuinely don't think anyone is comparable to him right now. I can just see him, like I said, it seems like he's only getting better and better. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. But every time I've bet on Merab, he's never let me down. And it doesn't seem like he's going to let me down anytime soon. So I'd love to meet him. Hopefully I can get to meet him in Vegas at the end of the month because I just love to talk to him and Aljo. I love those two. Their friendship as well seems really fun. So that would be really cool to be able to meet them. Oh, well, what's next for Sean? He's in a weird spot, I think, because he did a good job at beating the people below him, in the Petr Yans, and he beat Aljo in a really dominant way, and then now he's faced Merab, who just happens to be a beast. Before that, Sean was on a tear, right? I've never been on the Sugar Show hype train, but I can acknowledge that he was very good. Maybe his kryptonite was Merab, I think a fun matchup for Sean could be Umar or Song Yudong. So get him training again. It will be. I am very interested to see if Sean will come back with colored hair, come out to Superstar, see how locked in he is for camp. Sean's an interesting one because he was so young when he kind of blasted into superstardom, and he had this crazy personality and visual aesthetic that people fell in love with. And then on this last fight, he chose to tone that character of Sugar back down. So I'm curious to know now that he's had these back-to-back losses and lost his belt, what kind of Sean will return for his next fight. I don't think, obviously he's going to be who he is anyway, but I don't think he should be too hard on himself in trying to remove this Sugar character because that does seem really genuine to him. I just hope that he's one that I often think about mental health wise, just because you saw how he took that first Cheeto loss and then he's just always been so vocal and confident. So I'm not sure and we'll be very curious to see his reaction and how he comes back from these 2 losses. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So yeah, very, very fun weekend, especially for the bantamweight division, both women and men. Yeah, and then this weekend we've got Usman and Buckley, which is very fun for the welterweight division, which we also know is getting very juicy. So yeah, leave comments letting me know what your thoughts were of the fights this weekend, your most memorable moments, and what you think is next for everyone. I think this was a really, really fun weekend. And like I said, it feels like the energy is back, I hope. Like, we've got a few weeks of solid fights lined up. So I'm very excited to be able to talk about those and, get chatting with you guys. So love you all. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, all the good stuff. And I'll see you next time.